Welcome back to Inside the Game with CNHI Sports. I'm George Brimmer of CNHI Sports Indiana. We're going to get you caught up on all the headlines across the country. Let's start, since it's March, with college basketball. Check in with Elton Hayes of CNHI Sports Pennsylvania and Kevin Brockway of CNHI Sports Indiana. Now it's time for our weekly Big Ten spot. And Elton, we're going to start with you. You have been on the Illinois bandwagon all year long. The Illini delivered in a major way this week, a blowout win at Michigan without Ayo Dosunmu. You obviously saw this coming. What makes the Illini such a difficult matchup for everybody in the country?
They're well-rounded. I mean, they've got good play all around. Tim Frazier's really stepped up for him this year. Carabella's really stepped up. Kofi Coburn looks like he's wearing a bat suit. He lost all that weight in the offseason. And, he's just a dominant, imposing figure down in the paint. And they click. They mesh well. Everyone plays their role. They play that role well. And I mean, if you would have told me heading into Tuesday that Illinois would be without Ayo Dosunmu and go into Michigan and get a double-digit win, I'm like, not with the way Michigan was playing. I like Illinois, but to get a double-digit win on there without their star player, and they did just that. I mean, they looked impressive. They looked, for both halves. They didn't take their foot off the gas pedal, and they finished. So, we've talked all season about the Big Ten, top to bottom, being competitive. Michigan's no slouch. Indiana, or not Indiana, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Kevin. Iowa, had a lot of people were saying that Iowa was the conference favorite to win it all going into the season. Iowa's still good, but I think Illinois right now, that's, they're hot. And I think in terms of athleticism and dynamic play, they are the best team in the conference.
Illinois definitely peaking at the right time here in March. On the opposite end of that spectrum, the Indiana Hoosiers, they absolutely needed a strong finish to keep their NCAA tournament hopes alive. They've gotten just the opposite. Another flat performance this week at Michigan State. Kevin, is Archie Miller on the hot seat?
I think definitely he's on the hot seat. It's 4 in a row now. It looks like it's not going to be an NCAA tournament appearance again this season, barring a miracle. Last year would have been, but it was a pandemic. So there's a lot of frustration because of the fact that you want to see growth, you want to see positive steps in this program, and you're not seeing it. With Trace Jackson Davis as a sophomore, I think the injury to Armand Franklin has hurt tremendously in terms of perimeter defense and perimeter offense. You go 2 from 20 from 3 against Michigan State, missing a lot of wide open looks as they kind of they changed their strategy on Trace Jackson Davis, and he was frustrated. A lot of fouls called in that game in particular. But this is a really there's a lot of noise in the system as they used to say down in Gainesville about Ron Zook. It's a very similar situation here right now.
Elton, in Penn State, it's a different situation in that I think the expectations were lower. No one really knew what to expect with everything that school went through, and an interim head coach. But Jim Ferry as well looks to be on his way out. We've talked about that. Is there anything the Nittany Lions can do here in the last week or so to change that outcome?
I think it's too late for them. I really do. I really think the bubble burst a few weeks ago when they lost at Michigan State. That was a game they needed to win. Heading into that kind of a difficult stretch, they lost that game. They on Wednesday they get a team in Minnesota that's 0-9 on the road this year. Richard Pitino is in the bit of a hot seat himself. I just don't see Penn State pulling that out. I don't. Penn State closes out the regular season on Sunday at Maryland, which Maryland has been on the opposite end of Penn State spectrum, a team that kind of slacked off a little bit, but has really turned it on here in the closing last month and a half of the season. I think Penn State will get into the tournament as the 12 seed, play Northwestern. That game could go either way. I know Penn State beat Northwestern earlier in the season, but I would be surprised to see Penn State make it out of the second round of the tournament.
Yeah, tough time for the Nittany Lions, no doubt. Kevin, you're going to see a team on Saturday. You're going to write about them this week in Purdue, but I feel like it's kind of flown under the radar a little bit. The Boilermakers have gotten hot themselves. I believe they've won 4 straight. Just beat Wisconsin this week, another ranked team in a really good game at Mackey Arena. Matt Painter seems to do this every year. They got a chance at a double bye. How seriously should we be taking Purdue right now?
Yeah, I think they are peaking at the right time, and what you're seeing is a lot of growth from their freshman Zach Edey with 21 points, a career high in that game. You've seen different freshmen step up at different points of the year. Jaden Ivey, Brandon Newman, the redshirt freshman Mason Gillis. So they are getting contributions from their younger guys, and that's really key to this run, along with, obviously Travion Williams, who's one of the best big guys in the Big Ten, and the 2 guards, Eric Hunter Jr. and Sasha Stefanovic, having that second year of starting experience, I think has really helped them. So I think it's a well-rounded team. I think it's a team that could make some more noise in March. Are they a Final Four team? I don't know if they're quite that talented or well-rounded yet, but I could see them as being a second weekend team in the tournament.
That'd be a great accomplishment for Matt Painter again. It just seems like he does that every year. Elton, a team that you have some history with, a school that you have some history with, Maryland might be the hottest team in the Big Ten right now. Are we talking enough about the Terps?
I think people are now recently, after Turgeon kind of, I don't know what he said to them, but they've really turned it on. They're, like you mentioned, they're entering the postseason in the Big Ten tournament as one of the hottest teams in the conference. I know they close out the regular season on Sunday against Penn State, which should be, barring any surprises, another easy victory for them. And some of the projections that I've seen up to this point has Maryland playing Indiana in the in both teams' first round of the tournament. If that is the whole true, I don't see Maryland having any problem with that. Maryland could be in the same conversation we're talking about the Iowas, the Michigans, the Illinois as we head into Selection Sunday.
Kevin, anybody else in the conference that we need to keep an eye on? I know Ohio State's been heading in the wrong direction lately. Are the Buckeyes still a threat? Anybody else out there that you see is maybe making some noise either in the Big Ten tournament or in the NCAA tournament later this month?
I like Iowa, which is amazing because I didn't like them a month ago when I saw them lose twice to Indiana. But, they went to Ohio State. They won there. I think the return to C.J. Frederick really helps them, not just with perimeter offense, but with perimeter defense. He's one of their better defensive players. And Iowa is starting to defend at a higher level of late. So with Luka Garza, you never know. And if they get, a good matchup in the NCAA tournament, so much of this is about matchups. If they get into a good pod and some good matchups, I could see them making a run, deep into March. I mean, with a player like Garza, even to the Final Four, if, the cards turn out right. So without a doubt, I think they're an interesting team to watch, this month.
Yeah, Elton, talked about this a little bit earlier in the year. It's kind of the national story out there, but Gonzaga still undefeated. Is it realistic we could see somebody match the 1975-76 Indiana Hoosiers this year?
We could, not to disparage anyone on the West Coast. I just, the level of competition out there. But Gonzaga has proven itself to be formidable, regardless of who it plays. We'll see. I think it's a little bit too early for me to think about that in terms of, they got to get through the gauntlet that is March Madness. But hey, there's something to be said for being undefeated at this point of the season where everyone else is taking some nicks and bruises, and Gonzaga's done it. Gonzaga's not an upstart either. Gonzaga has that history. So you could be right, George.
It'll be interesting to see how that one turns out. Kevin, you got your nice finger on the pulse of the national scene. We assume Gonzaga and Baylor pretty safe bets for those 2 of those 4 1 seeds. Who do you think ends up with the other 2 top seeds on Selection Sunday?
I think Michigan and Illinois are making a strong case for sure. Some of it's going to depend on how it shakes out. I mean, in other conferences, you can make a look at Alabama, or you can look at Florida State as a team that's a possibility in the ACC that's playing pretty well. The ACC's not a very strong conference, but and West Virginia in the Big 12, they could be another one as well. So you've got a few in there, but I do think you're going to see 2 Big Ten teams, and it could very well be Michigan and Illinois.
That would be another sign of how strong this conference has been all year long. Well, guys, next week when we talk, we'll be talking about championships, Big Ten tournament, the NCAA tournament right around the corner. Thanks a lot for your time. I know we got a lot coming up the rest of this month.
All right. Take care, y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Elton and Kevin for their time. You can follow Elton and the Penn State Nittany Lions at EHDC12. You can follow Kevin in the Indiana Hoosiers at Kevin Brockway G1. Now let's get a national perspective. Check in with our national columnist, Clay Horning of CNHI Sports, Oklahoma. We now check in with our national columnist, Clay Horning. And Clay, last week, sports world kind of rocked by the news of Tiger Woods' crash out in California. It took a while to get all that information in, kind of process it. Now that we have a little bit better view of what happened, what are your thoughts on Tiger's career? Because it looks like, for all intents and purposes, his golfing days are probably behind him now.
I think that's probably right, and I resisted writing anything as it happened. I couldn't think of anything really smart anybody could possibly say, other than maybe asking, the very human question about was he in some way inebriated? And I don't think anybody wanted to suggest it, because I mean that's like, are you beating your wife? Kind of question. Nobody wants to do that, but I think we all felt it. And but if you're not going to go in that direction, I just thought there was nothing smart to say initially. Now I think it is an okay thing to reflect on what he's done, and it's not. I don't want to call it fun, but as I began to think about it, the way you define greatness on the golf course, you can look at it a number of different ways. It sounds like perhaps you couldn't, but trust me, because I'll give you some. But anyway. Nobody's ever played golf. My opening statement is nobody's ever played golf as well as Tiger Woods, period. But that doesn't necessarily make him the greatest golfer of all time. Tiger himself judged himself by the majors he won. So if Tiger cannot play again, and even if he could play again, it's hard to imagine him walking 72 holes at Augusta, which we can't see it on the television screen, but that's a lot of up and down. And anyway, Jack, and I'm upset with Jack for where he was politically recently, but anyway, Jack Nicklaus, that's Jack. 18 majors, also 2 U.S. Opens. Tiger won 2 as well. But anyway, Nicklaus has to be in front of Tiger. Is like, who's the greatest golfer of all time? I feel like that's who had the greatest career. That's Jack Nicklaus. But Jack at his best was not as strong as Tiger at his. And so I think you can say that. And then I just started thinking about some other things, like what's the most amazing thing a golfer's ever done? And Ben Hogan won 5 majors after his car wreck that should have killed him. And I'm struggling now to believe it was truly a head-on collision with a Greyhound bus, but that is the way history has recorded it. And I know that the story there is he threw himself across the body of his wife, who was in the passenger seat, and they say that action saved both of their lives. I guess the steering wheel would have killed him, and I guess the windshield would have killed her. But neither of those things happened, because he dove across the seat, and he came back and he won 12 times after that, and a bunch of majors too. That's incredible. Byron Nelson had the greatest year in PGA Tour history. He won 18 tournaments in 1945. He won 11 in a row. His scoring record of 68.17 has only been bettered, 68.34 for that season has only been bettered once by Tiger Woods in 2000, 68.17. Tiger, by the way, just looked it up, has 5 of the top 10 scoring PGA Tour seasons in the history of the sport. But Byron Nelson is still number 2, and he did it playing, on, courses that were not pristine, on greens that were not perfect, and all of those things. It's still stupendous and amazing. I don't understand how Byron Nelson only won 5 majors, but he only won 5 majors. He was Nick Faldo with about 30 more victories. So anyway, it's just sort of that's what I'm thinking about. And I'll give you one other historical note, because I remember writing a column about Tiger in, 2003, 2004. He was still dominating. I think he'd already had the Tiger Slam in 2000, 2001. And it was not just that he had won so many majors to that point in his life. It was that he had the 72-hole scoring record in all 4 majors. Amazingly, he has none of them now. I don't think that kills his legacy, but there's an asterisk on the Masters because Dustin Johnson said it in the last one, played off calendar, shot 268. It's 288 would be even par. Rory McIlroy's 268 at Congressional, which was 16 under, par 71 in 2011, is the best 72 holes in the U.S. Open. In the British, if you remember Henrik Stenson and Mickelson going back and forth in 2016, Henrik Stenson, I should say, 264 is the scoring record of the Open, and that put him, I think, at 22 or 24 under. Tiger's best was 2000 at St. Andrews. He was 19 under, and at the time, that was the record. And Jason Day in 2015 going 20 under at the PGA is the record in that event. So oddly, Tiger has none of the 72-hole major marks, but he's still, is it 15? It's of all the things I can't tell you off the top of my head, it's his major total, but I think it's 15. If I'm wrong about that, forgive me. But he also won 2 U.S. amateurs. He also and the 3 years before that, he won 3 U.S. junior amateurs, which are match play events, which make it more amazing. Well, you've got to shoot. You got to qualify for the match play by 36 holes a stroke. But, I mean, you can shoot 74 in one round and win a 72-hole event, but that day you likely lose your match. So incredible, incredible, incredible. So those are my thoughts on Tiger Woods, and I think I don't know. It's like I started rooting against Tiger in 02, 03, 04 because that would just have been the better story. I wasn't. There was nothing about him that I found annoying other than he won constantly. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, but even if you're, whether you want to cheer for a winner or cheer for the field, if that could, I mean, as writers, we root for the story. I always thought that would be, I mean, Bob May and Tiger at the PGA, that was the best. But even though I rooted against him, you know, I think we all look upon him now sympathetically. And
I'm interested to see what happens to golf as a whole now. I mean, for years he's moved the needle. Even recently, if he's in a tournament, TV ratings are up, the sponsorship money's up. Everything about golf seems to grow when he's around. There's a generation now, almost 2 generations, definitely a generation now on the PGA Tour inspired by him, grew up watching him. You know, you see the game changing in so many ways. What do you think the immediate after effect's going to be? Are we going to see drops in interest, or do you think golf's healthy enough now and strong enough because of where he took it that it won't be a major decline?
Well, I think he put it on a plateau that may not. I think he put it on a plateau that's pretty like I can't imagine what it would take for, say, Breakfast at Wimbledon to attract more viewers than the 4th round of the Masters, or the 4th round, or even the final round of the Open. I'm sure the Masters outdraws all 4 majors. It's the one I like the least because of its history and whatever. But nonetheless, so yeah, I can't imagine golf, like tennis eclipsing golf, or I can't imagine golf coming very far down. You're not going to see, I'd be shocked if prize money actually went down, you know, but it may not go up at the same rate. But I will say that if Dustin Johnson's the best player in the world, that's not good for golf because he's got no personality at all. You know, Ricky Fowler needs to win a major or 2. Jordan Spieth needs to win again. I struggle to find great personalities actually beyond those 2, to be honest. But I mean, give me a list of names, I'll find a couple more. But yeah, we also need, you know, Phil Mayer Mickelson may or may not compete for major championships again. But the way he plays with that short game, with, you know, you don't know if he's going to shoot 76 or 62 sometimes. And you know what? And it's underrated even about Tiger. But the reason why I always say Tiger was so great was when he was playing great, he could shoot 62, 3, 4, whatever. He could hit 16 greens. He could putt and just dominate. but he would shoot 68 on his bad days, on at least in majors. I mean, he would watching Tiger won because he scrambled better than anybody and was tee to green. I mean, he was tee to green as good as anybody, but it was the short game that just set him apart. I think Spieth is similar when he's been at his best. It's like it's fun to watch the swashbuckler. Fun to watch Seve, back in the day. We don't need Lee Jansen, who I can stand. We don't need Dustin Johnson ought to be exciting because he hits it a mile, but he's almost unexciting because of it. He just throws wedges in there 15 feet, and if he putts well, he wins. Who cares? So anyway, we need some swashbuckling. I identified 2 golfers that seem to play that way, although Ricky Fowler has disappointed in all big events but the Players, and Spieth seems to be coming back, but I'm just going off on tangents now. Golf is not going to fall very far, but you can see what's holding it back from continuing to surge if Tiger's not around. It's not the personalities.
I think it'll be interesting too, because his shadow is always kind of cast over this sport, just because he is such a monumental figure. And now with him kind of out of the picture, does it give a chance for some of these young guys to kind of step forward and take the mantle? I know there's been at times in the past decade or so, there's been teases about that, but is it a real thing now? Because we do not expect him to come back to the course, that maybe somebody else can step up and be the face of golf?
I mean, it's a real thing, but it's like, what when you say somebody stepping up, somebody jumping into the picture, what does that look like? That looks like winning 3 weeks in a row. I don't think that's happened in a long, long time. That looks like winning. I can't remember the year it was that Watson did it, but Watson won 7 times, and I don't know if even Tiger might have done that in a year. Might well have. But I mean, at Watson at his best, he was lapping a field that everybody thought Jack should be leading. So it's going to take something sort of outstanding. Somebody winning 2 majors in a year. Brooks Koepka has done that, actually, and I find Koepka pretty engaging on the course. But I don't know. Maybe he needs to up his interview game or something. Because he's not working for me sort of year round, But he's very compelling to watch play. And so it's just, or it's going to take, I think we could name 5, 6, 7 names that we become accustomed to watching win. Jason Day would be one. Justin Rose, I was struggling for that name, would be one. But it's like, after you could throw a blanket around 10 names that you sort of expect to challenge for every major. How about somebody else, coming in and winning, 3 times before, or say winning the Tour Championship, for example, which I'm amazed that golf has been able to sort of make the Tour Championship a thing. Golf has tried very hard to sort of create the same sort of drama that sort of NASCAR does around his chase. And I think that it's actually managed to do it. So, maybe some unknown will come through there. Or maybe, is it Matthew Wolff? Is that who is the Oklahoma State golfer with that insane swing? He had the 54-hole lead. I want to say Matthew Wolff, but somehow that sounds wrong to me. But anyway, the club is just all over the place. You think Jim Furyk's got a funky backswing. Maybe that guy.
It's definitely going to be something to watch now. I think golf's going to change in a lot of ways. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Well, we got a lot of big events on the calendar coming up. March Madness right around the corner. Major League Baseball getting ready to start up. I'm sure there's no shortage of things to talk with you about. We'll talk to you next week. All
right. I enjoyed it. We'll see you again.
Thanks again to our national columnist for his time. You can follow Clay on Twitter @ClayHorning. It is the NFL offseason, but the conversation never stops. Let's now check in with Bill Burt of CNHI Sports Boston. Now it's time for our weekly spot with Bill Burt. And Bill, you wrote a column this week I thought was very interesting. You termed it Brady Derangement Syndrome, talking about some of these veteran quarterbacks starting to realize their legacies pale in comparison to a man with 10 Super Bowls, 7 Super Bowl rings. I guess everybody in NFL history really pales in comparison to Tom Brady, but it's probably worse if you're his contemporary. Can you expand on this a little bit?
Yeah, so what's happening is, and this has been sort of happening, but I think the win in Tampa solidified everything. Because, look, the most Super Bowls any team has won is 6. It's like the Patriots and the Steelers. And so now Brady's won 7. So it's like, okay, that's a little different. The 7th, though, was unexpected. He won it. Not only did he won it, but he did it beating Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I didn't expect it either, but he did. Now, he didn't really do it. The defense really played a huge role. He played decent in the Super Bowl. It wasn't like a great Super Bowl. He won MVP because of what he did there. But what's happened is we've seen it in Seattle, and we've seen it in Green Bay, and we're seeing it in Houston. Houston's a little different, his situation, but it's like, okay, I got to win a Super Bowl, or I got to win 2 Super Bowls, I got to win 3 Super Bowls, or people are going to think I stink. And Russell Wilson is interesting because, he went to 2 Super Bowls in a row, 13 and 14 seasons, and he's been not even close. And technically speaking, Rodgers has been sort of close, and he's had laid a couple of real big eggs in Green Bay a couple of times. I mean, the 2007 Super Bowl, 2011 Super Bowl. He could have played Brady two times in a Super Bowl, but his teams failed. So my point is, I call it Brady Derangement Syndrome, playing off the Trump Derangement Syndrome, and it's driving people. They saw what he did from going New England to Tampa, and they said, "Whoa, he went to a team that was an 8-8, 7-9, 9-7 team, and they were really a quarterback away." And so now you got Russell Wilson. He's probably the loudest one saying, "I want to do that." But I don't want to be traded, but if you trade me, here's a list of 4, which is remarkable and funny at the same time. And so he's basically, I think what he's realizing is they're not going to build the team around him in Seattle. They tried it for 4 years and it didn't work. And I think he was told, we're going to go back to running the football, ball control, and defense, and that upset him. And so he's saying, I want out. I want to go to a team, and there's a couple of them. You could argue the Bears, a really good Super Bowl, a really good quarterback away from possibly going to a Super Bowl. Got the Raiders, interesting. You know what? A really good quarterback, they could compete. They're in a tough division, but they could compete for a Super Bowl. So those are 2 teams, and there were 2 other teams. San Francisco 49ers. You know what? They're a Super Bowl team. If you put Russell Wilson on that team, I would probably say they're the favorite in the NFC. Though now we got the Rams having a whole different operation with Matt Stafford. So what's happening is these quarterbacks are saying, "All right, I'm getting old, and I gotta get a Super Bowl. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be a bum who has won." And of course, they're not a bum. They're gonna go to the Hall of Fame. But you know what? Trent Dilfer has won Super Bowl. Joe Flacco has won Super Bowl. Brad Johnson won Super Bowl. And I'm talking just over the last 20 years. So what's happening is Brady's win this year has woke a lot of quarterbacks, and they're losing it. And they want to win now, and they're getting antsy. And I put it partly in their fault. And look, I'm going to look at Watson. Watson, can say the owner. The owner is the reason, and I want to go somewhere else. He didn't let me hire a coach or get involved in the coach or GM. That's fine. But you know where he's going to go? He's now going to go to a winner. He's not going to go to a 4-12 team and rebuild. He wants to win. Brady has changed everything. He's driving everybody crazy.
I think even aren't necessarily looking at themselves. I think it's going to affect the way business is done in the NFL for a while, because you see it, especially with Aaron Rodgers. You see quarterbacks now trying to use that influence to say, okay, if I am going to be here, I want you to make the commitment to me that Tampa made to Tom Brady. They brought in guys specifically to help Brady, whether it was Antonio Brown, whether it was Rob Gronkowski, and then other guys flocked to Tampa just because Brady was there. They don't sign Leonard Fournette if it's not for Tom Brady. They know that. And Ndamukong Suh might come back again this year because of Tom Brady. I think you see quarterbacks around the league now trying to pressure their teams. I want to have that influence. I want to get that situation. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
It's funny, Ndamukong Suh, by the way, I wrote a column a week or two ago about the Brady Four, and I called them Suh, Fournette, Brown, and Gronk. And I basically said Brady brought those four in, and guess what? All of them played a huge role in the Super Bowl. But I also, at the beginning of the story, I played off of Suh, and I said Suh didn't step on anyone's neck or ankle this year. And he blocked me on Twitter. I never knew. I don't even think I was following him, but I tried to see something, and he must have read the story and blocked me. So I'm not, and I wouldn't want to run into him in an alley, to be honest with you. But look, it's Brady's. This 1 year. If Brady retired, things are different. Russell Wilson's staying, but Brady has really. And hey, look, another story today came out that Drew Brees considering playing another year. And if New Orleans doesn't want to pay him and bring him back, he'll go somewhere and do what Brady did. He said it. I'll go to a team where I can help them win a Super Bowl. So it's interesting. This is a quarterback-driven league. Running backs, I was thinking of this the other day. I don't remember the last time one of the top 2 or 3 highest-paid running backs in the league won a Super Bowl or went to a Super Bowl. So it just doesn't happen. So even in we go to Tennessee, where arguably he's the best running back in the league. He is a powerful, carrying people, and next thing you know, they're fighting just to get in an AFC Championship game. So this is quarterbacks. This is Brady, and Brady said he's going to play another 4 or 5 years. So this derangement syndrome, like Trump, is going to go on for a couple of years.
It ain't going anywhere. That's Brady plays 4 or 5 more years, the league may go completely insane. And who's going to bet against him at this point? I know. It's remarkable. One of the things about this offseason, any offseason, one of the things that comes up is proposed rule changes. It's one of the big things this time of year. The Buffalo Bills have one out there that I'm sort of on the fence on right now. They want to make it so that no interviews can take place for head coaching openings until after the conference championship games, and no Super Bowl and no hirings to be made until after the Super Bowl. The idea there is you get guys, I think this year, I think the number was something like 11 job interviews from coordinators on the conference championship teams. None of them landed a job. The idea is to maybe open this up to more assistant coaches, get guys more opportunity. I understand that side of the argument. There's been an argument for a long time that, it's splitting guys' loyalties. If you're trying to prepare for the playoffs, you shouldn't have to also be worrying about this chance of a lifetime for your head coaching job. But I also look at the college game, and just this year, Steve Sarkisian seemed to do just fine with Alabama, even though he was already set up and going to Texas. So, and it seems every year some assistant on one of those playoff teams is dealing with this, and it's not a problem. I'm kind of on the fence. I wonder where you are on this.
So it is. I understand. It's sort of difficult because what if you're a team that's 1-15 and you fire the coach the day after the season? Do you want to wait until after the Super Bowl before you can hire a coach? I don't think that's fair. You want to get some excitement. That's when you start selling tickets. That being said, that team has a better chance at getting the big time name because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if there's assistants who are going to blow you away at an interview. I mean, what do you do? What if you get a college coach and you want to get, let's say, Urban Meyer, and he wasn't a pro coach. He's not doing interviews. Why not hire him January 3rd or 4th? Belichick was hired, I think it was January 4th or 5th or 6th or 7th or something when the Patriots brought him in from the Jets. I get it. You know what it is? It's the teams that are in the playoffs. They don't want that distraction. But I will say this, McDermott, who's probably one of the key guys behind this, because this is going to happen now for a couple of years, and he's got 2 guys that are going to get hired next year, full-time, his offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. They're going to be head coaches probably next year, so he's going to have to deal with this. But, if you put it out like they do, you say, hey, this day, They're not going to work. They're going to interview, and coaches and teams are going to go. I don't see a problem with that. I just think making everyone wait. I just don't think that's fair or right. That's all.
No, I think you make a lot of good points there. Some of them I didn't really think of. The other big one out there right now is coming from the Philadelphia Eagles. They want to take the onside kick, turn it into a 4th and 15. We talked a little bit about this before we got on the air. I'm against it. I think you agree.
It's like, you know what it's like doing? It's like when you play, if you go to a rink or a pond to play hockey, you turn the net around backwards and then you score those little cheap goals without a goalie or what. It's like, no, 4th and 15 is makeable. And I would want 4th and 15 every time rather than an onside kick. And then 4th and 30, well, that's crazy. Then you're going to get penalties or stupid things will happen. So I'm against it. I think the overtime is fine. Again, Patriots won 2 big games. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And they beat Atlanta, and they took the ball and scored a touchdown. And all of a sudden, we had no issues with the rule until the Patriots did it twice. And so no, I like the rules as they are. Personally, I think field goal. If you ask me a rule, I would say I want less field goals, and I would start maybe after the 3rd field goal, count them as 2 points. Force teams to go for it. Now I know that's, but I don't like 6 field goals. They won 21, 18 to 14. I mean, the game is get a touchdown. I mean, that's really what this is. Move the ball, score a touchdown. Kickers are there for fun and giggles, and make big kicks. Obviously, I'm not saying they're not important, but I don't like too many field goals. I think that I want to see. I like going for it. I like 2-point conversions. I maybe get rid of the extra point. Make every team go for it. I don't know, but that's really the only thing that bothers me. The rest, I'm fine with.
I think the league's definitely moving more into an aggressive standpoint. We'll see. You may get those 2-point plays more often as we go. Well, Bill, the offseason does exist. We talk about that all the time. Next week, when we talk free agency is going to be around the corner. It never ends here. I'm sure we have plenty more to talk about. Thanks again for your time. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, guys. Best to the family.
Thanks again to Bill. You can check his New England Patriots coverage at Burt Talk Sports. You can follow me in the Indianapolis Colts at GM Bremer. And thanks again to all of you. We'll talk to you again next week.